Hello, I'm Greg Gutfeld with Kimberly Guilfoyle, Juan Williams, Eric Bolling, and a silly straw is her water slide. DP. The 5. Bill Clinton stumped for his wife in New Hampshire with a group of young women behind him. They're safer there. Did you know that soon it'll be 45 years ago in a couple of months when they met and fell in love?
Soon be 45 years ago in a couple of months when we met. When we fell in love, I thought she was the most amazing person because unlike now, where more than half the law students in America are women, then they were a distinct minority. And there she was at Yale Law School. She could have written her ticket to go anywhere she wanted. All she was really interested in was providing legal services to poor people. I valued even more a trip she took to South Carolina to see why so many African-American children were being held in adult prisons. It's hard to remember 40 years ago what things were like. She hadn't been elected to anything, but everything she touched, she made better.
Everything she touched, she made better.
Don't look at me.
He's great at this stuff. He's like that congenial professor who explains the Big Bang while unzipping his pants. But it's easy for liberals. If your goal is to expand government, then each expansion becomes a trophy that small government righties can never claim. He really is Santa Claus, red nose and all. Sadly for conservatism, our activism is always local. It's in our living rooms. For liberals, it's invasive, entering our living rooms too. And so with Bill, the Republicans face two foes, not just one. But that's Hillary's problem also. For once he leaves the stage, then what do you have? Hillary. His charm reminds you it's not him, it's her who's running. He's too much of a good thing, reminding us she might be a bad thing. A minute with Hill erases an hour with Bill. Once she speaks, you're reminded she was a lousy Secretary of State, leaving us in turmoil. She blamed videos, contradicted victims' families, dismissed national security concerns. And remember that Russian reset button? Neither does Putin. So she'll paint Republicans as lady haters. That's fine. Every time she talks about women, just remind her how she treated the powerless ones targeted by her better half. Then focus on Hill's incompetence as you address the concerns of an anxious nation. Don't play the Bill card, play the Hill card. It's an ace, and it beats that joker. I have to admit, though, Dana, I thought that Bill did a great job. I mean, he makes her almost seem human.
He is a great asset for her.
Yes.
He probably looked better than he has in a long time. He looks rested. He looks, more well-fed.
Yes.
Before, remember, he was getting so thin.
Well, he's a vegetarian now.
Yes, he does, because he's been taking very good care of his health. I have a feeling that the reason that the Hillary campaign decided they needed to deploy him in New Hampshire is that they think that they have got some trouble there. Bernie Sanders is up on the upswing there. The Real Clear Politics averages has him at 49 to her 45. And I don't know if anybody saw, but his fundraising numbers this past quarter were really good. So I think that they wanted to bring Bill Clinton out because Democrats who adore Bill Clinton would walk on hot coals for him. And they're going to have to use him a lot in the general election. It might be a little early to be using him in New Hampshire, but I think they feel like they must do so.
That's a sign. Eric, do you agree with me that when he comes out, it just provides maybe a contrast to the person?
That's a great. I never thought of that. I watched Bill also, and I thought, wow, he's doing very well. He's speaking very well. If you also watched him afterwards, though, reporters grabbed him on the side, and they asked him about this whole big controversy with Trump and whatnot. I'm telling you, he just fumbled those. He went from a very eloquent, articulate man and commanding the stage, and then when you start to ask him some questions, it kind of falls apart. So it fell apart for me there. But you're right. If you juxtapose Bill Clinton with Hillary Clinton, no comparison. You can't have Bill back, though.
Yeah, you can't have Bill back. Let's roll that. I think we have that tape of Bill Clinton being asked about Trump.
Donald Trump says your past is fair game. I've got to ask you, you keep coming up on the trail with him. Is it fair game?
The Republicans have to decide who they want to nominate. I'm trying to tell now the Democrats in the country want to think Hillary would be the best president. And I think there's always a template to take the election away from the people, so I'm just going to give it to them.
That's a strategy. Turn the
really?
music up really loud during Q&A so you can't hear them.
Does that work when you're in a fight with a spouse? Just turn the music up. I can't hear you. I can't hear. Kimberly, will people vote for Hillary because her husband's so likable?
Sure.
Yeah.
Partly, but you're going to have to be a diehard Democrat, and you're going to want, no matter what, to maybe perhaps preserve the legacy of Barack Obama, keep a Democrat in the White House, because it's not going to be because of enthusiasm for Hillary's candidacy. It's because you want to see another win with a D in the column. That's it there. He's definitely capable of generating a lot of enthusiasm. He's an excellent campaigner. He's very good on the stump. I've worked with him in campaigns when he's been helpful to, when Gavin was running for mayor. So you can use it.
You a lot.
Well, he did show up quite often.
Yes. Sometimes when your husband wasn't there.
He always asks, hey, so how's your wife? Yeah. But the point was, he showed up when you needed to. He's a clutch Democratic player for sure in terms of being a party loyalist. And if you're one of those, you're going to say, okay, let's throw it into their column versus what? Choose a Republican? I mean, that's the thing. And will it be enough to generate enthusiasm to get out and motivate the base is the point.
Juan, should Republicans be focusing on Bill?
Yes, to some extent. Okay, one, Bill Clinton's really popular. I mean, Bill Clinton, I think, was in nearly 70% approval rating in like 12, and just recently, last year, is at 59, so about 60%.
That happens with
former presidents.
Yeah.
Right. But the thing is, what's that song, Let's Talk About Sex? Because that's what we're talking about here with Bill Clinton. And that's why Republicans are focused on Bill Clinton. So when Hillary Clinton raises the charge of Republicans being anti-women, what does Donald Trump say? Don't do that. Be careful, Hillary, because I'll mention your husband, and I'll start talking about all the women in the past. And do you know that she was interrupted at a event this past weekend where somebody said, "Hey, what about all these women who charge about your husband? Don't you respect them?" and the like. Hillary Clinton then says, "Oh, you're rude," and tries to shush them. So Republicans, for the moment, are right to play this heavily. But do I think, if you're asking me, do I think that it is going to reward them? No. I think most people say this is 20, 25 years old.
I think if you separate the two, so you don't talk about Bill, but you talk about the fact that she threw all those women under the bus. If she claims to be pro-woman and she's against the war on women, it's about the Juanita Broaddricks and the Catherine Wileys. It's about those women. It's not about Bill. It's about the fact that she basically called, Monica
Paula
Lewinsky.
Jones just said that in an interview.
Yeah.
It's like, how can you say that she's for women? She doesn't care about any of us. She called us like Bimbo Express, that we were all to blame, that we were basically predators after her husband, and didn't want to accept any personal responsibility for the acts that he, committed, performed, however you want to say it. I don't know.
Well, you said it, but I will say this. Would you blame a woman for her husband's indiscretions and bad behavior? I don't think most people feel that.
No, the point is, don't badmouth
point.
other women. She's taken the stand that she is the one, the champion on behalf of women and children and babies. Well, Planned Parenthood, that's out the door. Hello, where's your respect and love for the babies there? Let alone the women badmouthing them.
She has said female victims have a voice, deserve a voice, except for the ones that her husband was involved with.
Well, I think she said nobody has brought charge. This has been explored, and it's 25 years old. And I say this, it is 25 years old.
Well, so her opinion has
Let me
evolved on how
Eric, that
victims
means
are treated?
The women that Bill hit on now has adult children he could hit on because it's 25 years.
Not only, but one of the things,
You play rough. You play very rough.
I do.
all of this said and being true, 20%, about 20% of the electorate was not born when Monica Lewinsky scandal happened. So you have to go back and like Juanita Broaddrick. Like if there are young people out there watching today, they're like, who in the world is that? They never heard that name before.
Well, Google.
So and they're like, and they want to look forward, right? This doesn't necessarily affect them. However, I do think that what Trump did, it was like a shot across the bow, as what Juan was saying. It was like, you want to bring that up because I have plenty of ammunition in my.
It was a refresher. Breathe life.
It was like arrows in your quiver and something.
Everybody's talking about it, aren't they?
Can Bill change the perception of Hillary right now? I mean, because her saying that she was all about helping people who were poor with their legal woes and minorities. I mean, she was bloodthirsty when she was First Lady. She wanted Hillary care. Remember that? She was some people would say that she was more aggressive politically than Bill was in the White House.
Also, I think it's worth asking Bill Clinton if he thinks that Hillary Clinton actually supports the Bill Clinton presidency, because on many of those issues, on trade, on the economy, now we're in a different time frame in the country and with the future and with technology, But she's flip-flopped on a lot of things that actually was attractive about a Bill Clinton presidency if you were a centrist.
Yeah,
Such
that's
a
the
good
problem.
point.
She's
He's more
elective.
attractive. But can we speak? We're talking about Hillary.
I'm glad you think so.
He is. Let's face it. I mean, as a candidate, as a president.
I thought you meant
this
as
is
a man.
Hillary telling New Hampshire voters everything that Republicans are against: human beings.
If you listen to the Republican candidates, and you in New Hampshire get both the chance and the burden of having to listen to the Republican candidate, they are against nearly every right we've got. Human rights, civil rights, women's rights, gay rights, voter rights, worker rights, you list them. And they'll do whatever they can to undermine them and undercut them.
She left out animal rights, bacteria rights.
Right.
I don't know. Last rights. I don't know. Is this going to work? Isn't America tired of all this division and identity obsession?
Well, she's alienating half the country because her biggest threat and biggest enemy is Republicans. I mean, come on, that's a real get-along kind of gal, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, I guess she can afford to lose Republicans because they don't.
But not in New Hampshire. Like,
Not
I
really.
think she's a little. If Bernie Sanders really does have this kind of momentum in New Hampshire, you would think that she might want to start drawing a contrast between her and her opponent, rather than just her and the Republicans, which she's done for her entire political career, and she will do in the general election. I would be more worried about Bernie Sanders there.
Yeah, but you're only worried about New Hampshire, and I think that she's worried about the entire Democratic primary map, and she's pretty secure there. So the question is, how does she conduct her business? Sanders has said, forget about the emails. And Sanders has said, by the way, Greg, forget about Bill Clinton's sex life, right? So then what do you come down to? How does she play
I think that's why it's attractive. I think that's why he's doing better in New Hampshire. Because he's saying, let's not focus on those issues. Let's focus on his vision of how to make America great again, for lack of a better phrase. And those voters in that town hall, they want to hear that. They don't want to hear just the bashing against Republicans.
Right, but I think that Bernie Sanders is one who would bash Wall Street.
Right.
In a way that Hillary cannot bash Wall Street. And Hillary is far more aggressive on military issues than Bernie Sanders. And I don't think that plays to the general election that Kimberly was talking about in the way that would be to her advantage.
It feels like she's not worried about a primary.
Well, in a way, that's right.
She's done. She's
go.
got,
Skipping the appetizer.
$111 million. I think she raised some insane amount of money.
Right.
She knows she's doing well. Once you get out of Iowa, New Hampshire, once you go south, she's killing it. She's not worried
But
about
bowling,
Bernie.
she had it in the bag last time. Remember 2008? And then it was like, oh, boom. And then President Barack Obama,
But there's no
stole
Obama to
it from
come
her.
to do this, right?
But
Sanders is not
but guess
Obama.
what? She's an enthusiasm issue. People aren't fired up about her candidacy. They just like the idea of a Democrat. Let's
And
be
also
honest.
remember the
If
polls
she loses
from
New Hampshire and Iowa, bad.
And remember the polls from a couple of months ago that had her doing poorly with women in many of the states across the country, including in a swing state like Colorado.
Good points.
Where there might be some skeptical women.
Yeah, that is true. All right, enough of that. Stay tuned because our countdown to Iowa continues next with Donald Trump's first TV ad and Ted Cruz's latest attack on Marco Rubio.
Every time I hear Ted.